What do we do?
I'm recording this, by the way, so that everybody can see Jill's presentation. Here comes Rita.
Did you get permission from everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
You remember? All right, page 1.
Oh, we have something else.
Almighty God, allow us to rest on this Shabbat. May the light of the candles drive out from within us all impatience and sorrow. Send your blessings to us and to our children, that we may walk in the ways of your Torah, your light.
Hold on.
Wait, hold on.
No song.
I didn't know it was going to start.
Blessed art thou.
Hold on.
Lord.
No, you don't need to start it
Awesome.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctioned us with his commandments and commanded us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. Let there be joy.
Let there be
peace.
Let there be light.
Let there be
Shabbat.
light.
All right. I'll tell you what, that's a good idea. Let's do one or two. Let's do L'chadodi and one or two prayers, and then allow other people to get in, and then we'll go to Jill's presentation. Okay? Sound good, Mitch?
Yeah, whatever you say.
Okay, L'chadodi, page 3.
Hold on. Where'd it go? I didn't think we were doing it, so I ended up
Oh,
trying
sorry.
to download it before.
I
Didn't
threw
know
you
it
a
was gonna
curve.
start. Hold on. L'chadodi, l'krat kala, penei penei shabbat l'kabbalah. L'chadodi, l'krat kala, penei penei shabbat l'kabbalah. Yourselves, Barodi, l'krat kala, penei penei shabbat l'kabbalah. L'chadodi, l'krat kala, penei penei shabbat l'kabbalah. Shemor v'zachar b'dibur echad, Yishmianu elam echad, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, L'shem keret v'letila la 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 l'chadodi, l'krat kala, b'nei b'nei shabbat l'kabbalah. L'chadodi, l'krat kala, b'nei b'nei shabbat l'kabbalah. L'krat Shabbat, l'chu v'nelcha, ki mekor ha'baracha, merosh mikedem nesucha. So ma'aseh b'machshava techila la 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 l'chadodi, l'krat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat l'kabbalah. L'chadodi, l'krat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat l'kabbalah. Don't worry, Kivari, Kumiori, Really Shikaberi, Kivod Adonai, L'krat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat l'kabbalah. L'chadodi, l'krat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat l'kabbalah. Now the band takes over.
in progress.
Oive shalom, Ateret bala, Gam b'simcha, Ulsachala, Toch emunei, Am segula, Boichala, Boichala, La Dodi, Tatkala, Nefesh Shabbat Kabbalah, Kazala Dodi, Tatkala, Nefesh Shabbat Kabbalah, Nefesh Shabbat Kabbalah.
Let's say a couple of prayers together before we start our program, and we'll begin with our prayer for Israel and the hostages on page 6. And if everybody would pray along with me. God, our protector, you who blessed Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, bless all Israelis who are fighting a war for survival against adversaries. Vanquish the enemy, rise up against us. We seek our
extinction as a nation and as a people.
Make the current
peace process a real one.
Make it one that can truly bring peace,
security, and coexistence
to the region. We
thank you for the hostages who have already been returned.
Pray that those who need help will
be returned speedily to their families.
May Israel live on as a
beacon of peace and humanity,
as a model of religious freedom to the world.
Blessed are
you, God, who frees the captive. We'll say together.
Let's say together. Amen.
One more on page 7, and this is a prayer that began as a prayer for Ukraine a long time ago and has evolved. And unfortunately, I felt the need to rewrite it again this week because of situations that are taking place right in our own country. So our prayer for freedom and liberty everywhere on page 7. Our God, lover of humanity, please ensure that the citizens of the United States, Ukraine, the former Soviet bloc, our NATO allies, and wherever else freedom and
liberty are threat, will be enabled to live the lives they chose
in democratic
societies without the fear of tyrannical interference.
Guide us
in strengthening democratic institutions and extending them all.
We as a people of all hostile environments, we wish the opposite
for every citizen of our world. Ensure that the forces of freedom and democracy prevail across the globe. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'eh tefillah.
Also to you, Adonai, our God. Here's our prayer.
Here's our prayer. Amen.
And now it gives me a huge amount of pleasure to welcome Jill Kaplan to our service tonight. Jill's husband, Paul, and I have been friends for longer than we want to admit, with also some other people on the screen with Dave and Al and trying to think that, and anyhow, we go way back, way back. But Jill has devoted over 35 years to Jewish education on Long Island. Various times she served as a classroom teacher, a religious school principal, a family education director, and she spent the last 6 years focusing on presenting adult education classes for Malloy University's lifelong learning, as well as for various local sisterhoods and libraries. In 2012, she began studying with renowned Soferet Neil Yerman, learning the scribal arts and the process of restoring Torah scrolls, which we'll learn about tonight. It's an amazing process. She's currently the scribe in residence at Temple Or Elohim, a community reform congregation in Jericho, Long Island, restoring 4 of their Torahs. She loves spending Shabbat afternoons and holidays with the residents at Atria Tanglewood, which is a retirement community. And she and her husband, Paul, live in Freeport, Long Island. They've been there since 1983. They have 2 children, Emily and Ross, and are thrilled. Some of us can identify with this, are thrilled to be Oma and Grandpa to their 3-year-old granddaughter, Maisie. So with that, it is a thrill for me to introduce Jill Kaplan to all of you and to learn the intricacies and the difficulties and the exhilaration of restoring Torah.
I was going to say that, yeah, it's not all work.
No, it's God's work in addition to whatever else it is. So, Jill, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Rick, and thank you for letting me be part of your Shabbat service and your Shabbat experience.
Well, now for the rest of your life, you're a FOBC, a friend of Beth Haverim. It's a lifelong
Thank you. Thank you. And it's in your name too. Chaverim.
There you go. Yep.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, next time I'm in the area, I won't be Zooming. I said this to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So I have a lot of stuff all around me, which is why Paul is upstairs. And as we did our little tech check earlier this week, this could probably be part 1 and part 2 and subsequent because there's a lot of information. And the most important thing I want to share with you is this presentation is interactive. So if you have questions at any point, if I'm screen sharing, Rick, I'm going to count on you to let me know if somebody either has a hand up or is saying something, because I might not be able to see or hear that. If you are comfortable writing on Shabbat, I would say take a minute now, grab a pen and a piece of paper, because as I'm talking or as somebody else is asking a question, that might lead to your questions or something you want to share. So, but this is definitely not me just standing here and talking. This is you asking questions based on something that I show you or I say. We'll see how far we get. Rick, I'm counting on you to also say, I think we're done for tonight. We'll see you
know
next
what? I'll leave it up to you. Figure out what the halfway point is, and that's fine. And well, I know. And then
I got a lot of notes here, and if the camera was able to separate, there's stuff everywhere here. So I'm just going to sort of start and go in what I think is an arc. It's an order of sorts. And but at any point, please raise your hand, call out, just unmute yourself and speak up. So let's talk first.
Do it that way so that I don't have to have everybody on the screen and watch for people to raise their hands. So just if you got a question, yell it out, and then I can
just unmute. We're all friends here.
I can go to speaker view. There we go.
Okay. So I just wanted to give a little background on what a Torah is. Actually, I guess I should give a little background on me. You did mention, you read my bio, but the scribing, obviously, and all of my Jewish educational experiences have sort of one has led to another and another. And it was actually, I was sharing with you that it was a grant that I had from an educational program that I was involved in. And that's what led me into studying with Neil. My college roommate had taught me calligraphy, but that was English calligraphy. And I had kind of over the years, as I learned more Hebrew and I became more comfortable with it, I had kind of developed my own style, but I felt that it was very undisciplined. It was not anything, I was self-taught. And so I wanted to take the scribal arts, as Neil refers to them, and be able to not just for myself, but also to be able to bring it into the classroom, to be able to share it with children and with grown-ups and congregants. And that's what has led me to where I am now. So, a Torah. And this, I'm going to kind of ask questions. What is a Torah? Unmute. Somebody tell me, what is it? Before I tell you like how I make it and how I restore it and fix it, what is it? What's in it?
5 books of Moses.
There you go. Okay. You don't even have to raise your hand, just call them out. Yes, so the 5 books of Moses, from Genesis, creation, all the way through our ancestral fathers and mothers, and in and out of Egypt, and through the desert, and all the way into Moses watching the Israelites go into the land of Canaan, into the promised land. Those are our 5 books. And the Torah itself, everything to do with the Torah is organic. Everything comes from nature, whether it is the surface we are writing on, and we're going to get into that, the tools that I'm using, the ink, the feather that I'm writing with, all of this comes from nature. So there are 4 different animals. When we call it parchment, it's in Hebrew, the word is klaf, and it's the same parchment, whether it's in a mezuzah on the door, whether it's the Torah, whether it's the at Purim, a few months ago, a couple months ago, we had Purim. The Megillah is also written, same thing, same tools, same materials. So 4 animals. Anybody want to guess what animals we might be using?
There's a calf. Isn't the Torah on vellum?
It is, vellum is paper, right?
Oh, vellum. Oh, then calf. It's calf, isn't it?
So we got calf. We need 4. We got calf, cow.
Lamb,
Say this.
lamb,
Lamb, sheep,
Or
goat,
goats?
goat,
Goats?
and always the more difficult one to guess.
Yeah.
This is less common in Eastern Europe with our Ashkenazi family, but our Sephardic brothers and sisters,
camel.
definitely not camel, because everything, not only are the animals, but they must be kosher.
Kosher, yeah.
So no spitting or anything like that. Deer,
Deer. Oh,
meaning gazelles, all of the deer family that live in that part of the area, because what we're using is what's in the area. So many of the Eastern European scrolls, the Ashkenazi scrolls, those are cow, because there are fewer of the deer running around and the sheep running around as there are, and conversely, fewer cows that are roaming the streets around, or the hills and dale around in Portugal and Spain and Israel. So those are our 4 animals that we are making. That's what we're writing on. I have samples here. This, by the way, is my very official Torah tool holder. This is a collector's item because Pathmark, which was my favorite store, was around the corner. Sadly, it's out of business now, so I keep it just for sentimental reasons. But in here, I have a lot of my supplies for teaching purposes. So I have samples here of 3 different animal skins. And this is going to be just one column. I'm going to show you in a little bit. I'm going to screen share a picture, like an overview of the Torah itself, the way that it's written very specifically in even columns, where there are exceptions to the way things are written. But for now, so this is from Italy. I'm going to show it going back, the one column, but close up, that's the lettering. It's nice and big and clean. We're going to get to this cut, this tear, which is what makes this part unkosher. So this is cow. Let me see. This is God. Wait. I want to do Svi first. Svi, this is deer. This is a Sephardic scroll, and you can see how very different the lettering is. The shapes of the letters, the size of the letters. Again, look at how nice and big these are, these letters. It's also a lot easier because they had dyed the sheep and the goat that I have, both of these are dyed. That's a very common thing that they will do. And so it's a little harder to read. Also, the lettering is much smaller, and the shape of the letters is different. By the way, that's one of the things that tells us where a scroll is from, is the shape of the letters. Shin is the easiest one for me to demonstrate. In fact, so here's a shin right there. It's a little, so you can see it's very round on the bottom. And well, okay. And then the shin here, wait, I gotta come in on this side. Where's the shin? Shin. Here we go, a shin. So here's a shin over here, and you can see it's very flat at the bottom. This is the shin right here. The middle of these three letters is very flat at the bottom. And the way that middle line is, there are so many little subtleties. So yes, you have the flat as opposed to the round, but is it kind of leaning this way? Is it leaning that way? All of these little subtleties will tell us how far over. And I can recognize some of them, but like Neil, I was telling Rick, Neil could tell you, oh, you see that tiny little squiggle that it's got? Yeah, that's on the far side of the Pale Settlement as opposed to a little further west. I mean, he can because he's been doing this for just decades and decades and decades. And he is so, just to listen to him speak is just amazing. Anyway, so we've got, so this is 3 of our 4. I do not have, what am I missing? Goat. I think I'm missing sheep. Yeah, I have goat, Tzvi, deer, and cow. So those are our 4 animals that we will be making our Torah from. By the way, got these on eBay. So I won the bid for those.
Exactly where we bought our Torah.
Yes, you were sharing that. Well, that's why I wanted to throw that in there. The 3 separate, by the way, 3 separate bids. This was not a lot that I got, like all of them. So I got them at different times. Okay, so we're all organic. Those are our 4 animals. What else do we need if we're going to write a Torah?
Ink.
A writing implement.
Okay, writing implements. We'll need some ink and we'll need some feathers. So here, I got the ink right here. So this it's in a little plastic thing. God forbid it should leak. But I mean, at a distance, it looks like I went to Michael's and I got that wood art thing, right? Same kind of bottle. But as you can see, it is not. So this is a bottle of ink. I don't know how many ounces. This is 200 cc, whatever that means in ounces. And when I am using the ink, this is my ink well. And what I love about this, also from eBay, which I didn't even know when I bought it, was the sides. There's like a very, very slight indent on the sides, each of the sides. So a lot of times when I'm scribing, I will have the bottle sitting just on a paper towel, like right next to me. And a lot of times I will hold onto the inkwell itself. And it's like I'm feeling that indent. And it's like getting me just like a little bit closer to the ink. I can't really explain it, but it's part of my process. And it's part of what connects me to what I'm doing, is just feeling this little indent and like feeling the ink, if you will.
Is the ink of a special composition to make it kosher?
Why, thank you for asking. I happen to have this book right here. This is a really cool book. And so it's by Dr. Eric Ray, Rabbi Dr. Eric Ray, and this is old. This is a picture of his driver's license on the back, and it's from Torah Ora, but you could probably get it on, Amazon. But it's written for children, but it's really for everybody. And it just describes a lot of the different things that I'm telling you about, but his process, he was actually from Great Neck, which is close by here. I worked in Great Neck for a while. I actually got to meet him and he signed my book, which is like, so I love this. I do have other copies that I use when I'm teaching, but this one stays home with me. So in here is the recipe. It is a recipe for the ink. So the base of the ink starts with something called a gallnut.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know if anybody knows what a gallnut is. Fern, look at you. You're all about the gallnut. Tell us, what is a gallnut? I can't hear you.
Muted.
We have a lot of oak trees here and they have oak galls. I'm into galls, frankly. Artemisia galls, oak galls, there's all different kinds. I do California wildflowers and plants, but we have a lot of oak galls. If you want, I will send you some. But we have oak galls and I know you can make ink. I never have. I have a friend who's made ink out of them.
So that's what we're using. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's share what that means for everybody else. So basically, if you ever got stung by a bee or a wasp, what happens? If the bee stings you right here, what happens?
Well,
Swells up, right? So a mama wasp who is about to lay her eggs will sting the tree, and the sap, just like our blood rushes to the point of trauma, the sap rushes to that part of the tree, and all the sap gets there. And in this gooky, warm, sticky mess, that's where she lays her eggs. That's where she builds her nest. And then when everybody leaves, what is left of that is it starts to get hard, and that's the gallnut. And that becomes the base for the recipe for the ink, which also I tabbed it here. Hold on. So this is how we make the kosher ink recipe, which is boil 1 pint of water, add a half a pint of crushed gallnut powder. So you've got to let it dry out completely and then crush it and make it to powder. We have gum Arabic, which is going good because ultimately it does have to get sticky again, and it's thick. I mean, it's not like if you've ever done either calligraphy and used that kind of a water-based ink, or even painting with ink or like a light paint, this is a little bit thicker. And so it kind of glops a little. You definitely need to get used to working with it. Copper sulfate crystals, and we also have to get it black because it's not going to be that dark originally. And we want to because most Torahs are written in a version of a black ink. If you look either at what you're wearing or around the room, black has many different shades. So we're going to try, if we are restoring, we're going to try and match by adding, maybe you add a drop of water and that's going to make it a little bit lighter, or you're going to make it a little thicker. What gets settled at the bottom after a couple of days, it's really, really thick and a little darker. So maybe I'm going to use that if I'm working on a Torah that's really dark. But for the most part, it's black. So we need to add something from nature that's going to make it black. Any ideas?
Charcoal,
Carbon, coal, soot. Any of those are going to give us. So we've got fine black carbon powder. And basically you heat it and it cools, and you heat it and it cools. And this is going to, it's like with cooking. When you get down to if you didn't add enough liquid and it gets real thick, so maybe you're going to add a little water or chicken stock, and then it comes up a little bit, but then you want to thicken it a little, so you get to heat it and let it almost burn. It's that kind of a thing. So that's our recipe for ink, but don't eat it. Okay, so now we've got our ink, we've got our surface to write on. What are we missing?
Pen.
A pen. So we have, this is not it. We have quite a few, whoops, feathers here. These are turkey feathers. These are turkey feathers. I'm sorry?
They get angry when you pluck them.
They do, which is why I got a guy who plucks them, because I don't pluck. These are bleached.
When you're from New York, you got a guy.
Yeah.
I got a guy, of course. I got an ink guy. I got a cloth guy. So I got a feather guy, and his name is Neil. So these are bleached turkey feathers, and these are unbleached turkey feathers. And this just has some ink on it. And what we do is, here, let's do this real close here. That's not a good one. Here we go. No. Hold on. So these are the ones that I'm using currently. All of these other ones that I showed you, those are really more for demonstration. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the turkey. Let me go like that. So it's kind of round at the bottom. And it's also, I don't know if you can see, but there's like, wait, where's my camera? Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's like these little fibers and membranes inside. It's almost like a cobwebby kind of a thing. So we carve it out. And so this, there we go. So you can see that like that part is all kind of hollow on the back, but then the front of it is how, and then this tip here, you know what, as close as I'm getting, it's just making it more blurry. Let me see if I can get one of these guys. Okay. I should have pre-screened these. I'm sorry. Here we go. This is a good one. So this, you can see, so it's carved out. So it started like this. And then I carve it out. I carve out this part here, and then the side, and then laying it upside down on its back against the table, I'm going to use the scalpel to kind of cut it at an angle, at an edge. That's probably, by the way, the most challenging part. I'm not really good at it. It takes me a long time to carve these. But finally I get it. But you can see here, it's curved, right? So if you are right-handed, then you are going to use the feathers from the left wing of the turkey, because they are laying against the wing this way. And if you're a lefty, you're using the feathers from the right, because they are going this way. So I'm a righty, so I'm using the left wing. And so it's leaning this way, but like this, but the edge is over here. So it really fights being in your hand. It takes a long time to get used to using them and holding them and pulling the ink. You know, you have to go in a certain direction so that it's going to pull the ink the right way. Questions so far?
I do.
Yes. Laurel, is that your name?
Yeah,
Laurel?
yeah, my name's Laurel.
Good name.
Thank you. I do a lot of art too, but I'm not a calligrapher.
That may be the understatement of the evening. Laurel is an extremely talented artist. You know what, Jill? I'll send you some pictures of some of her stuff later.
Oh, thank you so much.
I appreciate that.
Amazing.
But I just wanted to ask a question, because I've dealt with rapidograph pens, and I've dabbled with calligraphy, and I am a lefty and all that sort of thing. But I'm
so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. But what I wanted to ask you is, like, I mean, as you're working and doing this, I imagine, because it's an organic tip, it wears, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it has to be like a pencil sharpener. You have
That's
to.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
I was
And-
wondering about that, like how you, I mean, I guess it's the surface you use. There's a lot of things that contribute to it being worn down, but do you just recut it?
Yeah, so you have to soak them. It's a very hard, it's very durable. It's very hard. So you soak them, and as I finally discovered, you soak them for a very long time, and it then becomes soft enough. And it's just like sharpening a pencil. It's the same thing, or even a piece of charcoal. I don't know what medium you use, but and that's exactly right. And so you carve it. Where are my scalpels? Ooh, did I not bring my scalpels here? Wow, look at me. There's so much here, and I think that I didn't bring my scalpels. All right, they're in the other room. Next time. But that's exactly what you do is you soak it until it gets a little soft. And these, by the way, I have different size nibs, the tip,
Yeah.
because as we saw, the letters for different Torahs. I can't see. There we go.
Yeah, we can see that.
Good to see.
Yeah. So some of them are very, oh, there you go. Duh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see some are wider than the others because I have to match what's already there. I have never written an entire Torah. I have filled in a couple of words here and there, sometimes a letter that has to be, and we'll get into when does a letter need to be replaced? When does a word need to be replaced? What does that all look like? But I have never written an entire Torah. I don't know that would ever happen in this lifetime. But I have to go.
There are different, like when you showed us that shin, the base is very thick, but the lines that go up are very thin. So you're using multiple tools in a single letter?
No, I'm using the same. So this one, okay, sidebar. I name all of the Torahs that I develop a relationship with these Torahs because I'm working. It's very intimate, it's very detailed and very laborious. And they develop a character, and ultimately they have a name. So this is from the Franny scroll. Okay. And this is how I know. So I know how wide those letters are. I have to cut the nib a tiny bit smaller than however thick the letters are because I'm filling in what is already there. So if I cut it the exact same size as the pen strokes that are there, I'm going to go over and it's going to be thicker. So I have to actually start because I have to take into account that as I do the pen stroke, there's a teeny bit on either side that's going to kind of bleed into, not bleed, but it's going to be wider. So I cut it smaller. So let's say I'm doing one of the wider parts, like you said, Rick, I'm going across, I'm going to hold it this way, but then, hold on, but then I'm going to turn it to its side where it's like really, really thin. And those very little details that we're going to get into, I'm going to use the edge of it. So I'm using the same feather the whole time, but I'm using different parts of the feather. And again, with time and practice, I just, I know how to use different sections of it, different parts of it.
I have a question.
Please, yes.
Two questions. When did the ink become standardized? In other words, I can't imagine that throughout the centuries, people that lived in all different parts of Europe, for instance, take the Ashkenazi, when did they have to standardize the ink? You talk about different.
I'm gonna check and see. Because this is the only ink I know how to make kosher ink. I'm an ink cook. Ink comes in. It does not say when this recipe started, but
you think there are other recipes that are kosher, or is this the recipe?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
All right.
But the beauty of these workshops that I do in these presentations, somewhere there's an actual pen here. Here we go. Is questions like this come, and then when I come back, I'll have the answers for you. So how long is, okay. I'm writing it down here. I mean, I know we can go to AI. I don't know who's writing the answer to that. So I'm going to Neil. He's my Soferet. He's my guru. You guys go to AI and we'll meet back and we'll see what the answers are. But that's a great question.
So, my other question is on the inkwell.
Yes.
At times, do you have to wash the inkwell and clean it?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right. So do you have to use a kosher soap or something or anything special?
I use water and a paper towel. I don't even use soap.
Okay.
I don't need soap. It gets very thick, as I said. So if I'm working for a few days in a row, maybe as the ink goes down, because I don't fill it to the top. Yeah. I will only fill it maybe like a quarter of the way or a third of the way. And then as I use it up, I'll put a couple more drops in. If I go a few days and then that I'm doing, and then maybe I take during the weekend, I would never work on Shabbat. I would never work on a Torah on Shabbat. I do, sometimes we have the Torah as a guest in the house. During COVID, I was sharing that I was hired by a different synagogue. It was Simchas Torah. And, you unroll the whole Torah. And the rabbi called me afterwards, after the holiday was over, and she said, we unrolled it. And when we got to the end, it just came off. She said it was like a piano roll, and it just went shh. And so somebody was left holding the Eitz Chaim, that wooden dowel that the Torah is wrapped around, and somebody else was left holding the rest of the Torah. And it had torn in a couple of places, and then COVID happened. So like we went in there, held our breath. I got the Torah out, and for 4 or 5 months, I was working on it here. It was the fall, as I said. So we have a big screened-in porch, which happens to be right there. And so I would work outside. I could be in these autumn colors and then into the early spring, and it was just beautiful. And Paul was my cinematographer. I was Zooming with them. And so, he would have the camera on the other side, and he would, focus in real close so that they could see. But that was how I worked on it. So few days in a row, I'm using this. Then maybe the weekend goes by, and now I come back. There's enough ink in there that I can just add a drop of water and kind of wake it up, and another couple of drops of this. Otherwise, I just fill it with water, let it sit for a few minutes, 5 minutes. I'm doing some other stuff. And then I just take a paper towel and just clean it out. So I don't even need soap.
Thank you.
I have a question. And this question did not occur to me until you said that you name your Torahs. Oh, when you've completed a Torah, yes, and it's time to return it to the congregation that contracted with you to do it, yes, is it like sending a kid off to college? I mean, you have a relationship with the Torah. And
absolutely,
an
yes,
emotional tie to it. How?
I do.
You go back sometimes?
But it isn't. Yes, and it isn't so much me saying goodbye, because it's not about me, but the Torah is a member of the synagogue. Right. And it's welcoming back this member who has been sometimes I'm working in the synagogue itself, and sometimes I'm taking the Torah home. It depends on how much work, it depends on how much space they have, their lighting. Light is like the biggest thing for me in terms of how my workspace is proper, good lighting, and there is nothing that beats daylight. Nothing. There is no synthetic lighting that is as good as me being outside. Anyway, there's a beautiful ceremony that takes place. You're welcoming back a member of the community who has not been well and went to the spa and got healed. And a lot of times, the very last letters, that I will leave those undone. And that becomes part of the ceremony that we have. For this particular synagogue that I was speaking of, so COVID was, we were kind of coming out of COVID. So we were out in the parking lot. We had to wait to make sure that that clearly it was not raining or anything like that. But also it couldn't be like at noon, because you don't want like the noonday sun, because we were out for about an hour. The whole ceremony was almost an hour, because people took turns holding on to my hand as I was writing. Some people wanted to actually, so I would dip the ink, the feather into the ink. There'd be like a lot of ink there, and they would just dip and touch the pen or the feather to the surface where there was a letter. And then I would take that as a little glob of ink, and I would use that, and I would finish the letter. So there were prayers, and there were songs. It was wonderful. So yeah, that's what happens. But my relationship with the Torah is just from the intake. It takes about 4 hours for me to do an assessment of a full Torah. Sometimes someone will, for my temple that we belong to, our temple, the rabbi will call me, because when they're doing, they finish the Torah reading, and so you hold it up, and, he'll say, I saw, when we were doing Hagba, I saw that there was, in next week's Parsha, I thought could you come over and look at it? And so if it's just that, I'm just going to come with my kit, and I'm just going to go do it. But a full assessment, because I am going literally letter by letter, section by section, from the very beginning to the very end. And I'm documenting, I'm taking pictures, and then I give them a report. So it's a very long process, but that's when the relationship with me and the Torah, between the Torah and me, that's when it begins. And speaking of letters, now what did I do with that paper? Because I believe I have some of these answers by heart, but not all of them. All right, so did we finish like our tools, our basic tools? Any other questions on those? Okay, then I don't want to mix up my feathers, so give me a sec, because these guys are my working feathers, and these are not, so hold on.
I have a
Okay.
question. I have another question.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Please.
I don't want to take.
No. That's why we're here. Please.
It's
Okay.
in the temples, like everywhere. I mean, because what you're doing is so, like a very precious task, a precious thing to do. But I mean, the way, like, in the museums, everything's archival. I mean, in the temples, do they consider the lighting and the housing of the Torah? I mean, I'm just wondering how that's handled.
So there's a saying in Hebrew, halavai, if only. Not every temple is as mindful of taking care of their Torahs. Torahs are very expensive, and repair is very expensive. And some temples listen to me when because some of the issues that happen, the damage that takes place over time could be avoided. Humidity, water, moisture is the enemy of the Torah. And so when sanctuaries are not air conditioned, when the ark itself is not properly monitored, then stuff happens. Yeah. And just like we all go to the doctor every once in a while, just for a well checkup, it's good for temples to be mindful of that and have every few years, every 3 years, every 5 years, to just have a scribe come in and just check and see what's going on. And a perfect example of that is one of the scrolls that I'm working on was assessed, and there's a timestamp on it, so we know 30 years ago. It was assessed in 1983. And 1993. And they paid to have him, because it was Neil, and because I recognized his notes. He has a very distinct way of taking notes. And they paid him to assess it. They did not have the money, or they decided, we'll wait. How bad could it be? And nothing was ever done. And 30 more years went by. And I am now repairing, and now much more damage has taken place. But I am now repairing what he could have done back then. And, so that's what happens. And, there's something called a hygrometer, which measures the humidity. And also, too cold is bad and too dry is bad, because then the letters start to flake off. And we're going to see, if not today, then next time, pictures before and after of what happens when the lettering, there's no moisture and the letters just literally crack off the page. The ink just is like powder.
So you're working on modern Torahs, it sounds like, from what you say,
Oh, no.
30, no, what I was going to
30
say
years ago is when it was assessed. Most of the Torahs that I'm working on are 100 years old. Easy.
Okay. I was going to say, so the parchment that it's written on, regardless of the animal, what's the life of that? Is it not finite? I mean, because obviously over 100 years ago, there was no air conditioning. There was limited heating. It was clearly...
Oh, yeah. How about 300 years ago in the desert? How about 300 years ago in Eastern Europe when it was cold and dry, those winters? Right. Absolutely. So I think the oldest Torah is like about 350 years, I think, at this point. The oldest one that I ever worked on was 180 years old. And again, we know that because there was actually the, what's it called? The provenance, like with a painting. Is that what it's called? Like the paperwork from the time that it was written for that particular temple, and then the families who had it over the decades. And and it was a family Torah. It became a family Torah.
Do they mold?
Yes, they do. Oh, I don't have it in here. So when there's mold, we use I'm gonna have to go get my bottle. I'm blanking on the name of it. Okay, talk amongst yourselves. I can't believe it.
This is terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
It's just
too bad Sammy isn't here, Steve.
Yeah, I know.
She would have liked this, I think.
Well, actually, I'm recording it, and I'll throw it up on my
good.
YouTube channel soon, so everybody will be able to see it again.
Yeah, she would like this, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of like shop talk.
I was going to say, yeah, Laurel says, yeah, I do a little art too.
So one of the things I'm curious about, maybe somebody else can answer on, maybe I'll ask
Okay.
Phyllis. Oh.
This is tea tree oil.
Oh, Melaleuca.
And it smells awful.
Oh, I like it.
I have to be outside when I use it. And to be perfectly frank, if your Torah has mold, there's like an extra fee just because I don't like using this. But this is from nature, and it is pure, and it's not a chemical, and it's gonna mitigate the issues. And with the scrolls that I'm working on now, just between us, I'm going to give a teeny, because they don't really follow my instructions that well. And there's a lot of humidity in the arc. So I'm going to do a very light treatment. This, like every 3 or 4 pages, and we're going to get to the pages in a second, just putting a little bit on a paper towel and literally just making a very light X and just going like this every 4 or 5 pages, 3 or 4 pages, because it's going to seep into itself, but that is going to prevent any further issues.
It's also good for insect bites, and it's antibiotical too.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I can see how insects would stay away from you with
Melaleuca.
Melaleuca. Okay.
Wasn't Melaleuca a shortstop for the Mets in the 1960s?
Jill, do
62.
you mask when you're dealing with mold?
Well, the first time when I started using it, it was actually before COVID, so I didn't know about masking. But I did work on a scroll during, and we were not outside, but we were in the windows were open and fans were going, and we had masks on. And that night, it was like I could still taste it. It just,
You're talking about the tea tree oil,
yeah, I'm talking about the tea tree
but
oil.
I'm concerned that
Oh,
you would inhale spores from the mold.
right. So most of the mold issues that I have come in contact with are pink mold, which is
Okay.
not black mold.
Okay.
I've never come in contact with a Torah that had black mold on it. But the pink mold and the pink mold is easily remedied. So it's not as dangerous.
Right.
But thank you for asking.
Where do you wipe it on? On the back, not the ink side of the scroll?
Well, if there's none as preventive, but don't forget we're rolling it. So yeah, I'm putting it on the outside, but it's going to get rolled into itself. So it's still going to be there, but it's a trace amount, and most of it gets absorbed on the paper towel. And so, like I'm taking like a piece like this, and then I'm going to tear it like this, and I'm just going to put like a teeny little bit and maybe rub it into itself. So there's hardly any on there. And it's just like a quick little, like a Z, like an X or a Z, and then that's it.
And one more question, how long does it take for the ink to dry once you do a letter, for example?
It's quick. It's quick. I mean, I will do, if I'm doing like a word, then, by the time I'm done with the next word, most of that first word is done. It dries very quick because it's thick. And it's not like it takes 15 minutes or an hour or anything like that. Once I finish a section, I will say, you unroll it and columns are showing, and I'm working on it. But I will not roll over to the next section. Like I'll have like a very large, we can't even see my hands, a very large section of a lot of columns showing. So by the time I'm ready to finish, I'll leave it open, but it's usually dry. It dries very quickly.
And in normal writing, being a righty versus a lefty, you sometimes drag your hand against it and you smear.
I have done that. I'm not going to lie. I have done that. But Fern doesn't have to worry about that because Fern is a lefty. So as she's writing, she doesn't have to worry because she's doing it the other way. So that's not an issue for her. She just has to figure out how to hold the pen. Okay, so we've got our surface, we've got our ink and our feathers. Now, how long do you think a Torah is? You've seen a Torah unfurled the whole thing, or sections ever?
Yeah, on Simchat Torah, yeah.
Simchat
It's a
Torah,
lot.
yeah.
Okay.
All the way around the room.
And I think it's sewn together. The pages are.
We're going to get to the sewing. Yes, got it right here. But how long is it? How many cows does it take to make a Torah? Yes, Dr. Sandy, so big. So it's about 30 or 40 yards long.
Wow.
But it could be as long as I actually Googled what is the longest Torah, which is almost 46 yards long. It's 138 feet, and it's from Bologna in Italy. Well, that's where it is now. I don't know that it was written there. But for the most part, they're between 30 and 40 yards long. Some Torahs, you may have seen, some Torahs are very tall. Some Torahs are a little bit shorter. The words are exactly the same. They're in the same order. It's just obviously a deer is maybe a little bit smaller than a cow. And so the piece of cloth that gets sewn, all those pieces together, you're going to dry it and stretch it and wet it and get it, and all of that. But they're all going to be the same size. And so if it's either going to have, most of them either have 42 lines or 60 lines. And so if there are more lines, it could be, where did my pieces go? Oh, I put them away, my Torah. Here we go. So this Torah, our friend from Italy, right? This, because the letters are so big, even though there are, and I don't know off the top of my head if they're both 60, 42 or not. This one is definitely 42. But because the words are so much smaller, you could actually get more words in 42 lines than you could in 60 lines because the letters are so much bigger. So therefore, you need more pieces because we still have to write the exact same words. The number of letters is 304,805. 300, did I get that right? Yeah. 304,805 letters in the Torah.
But here's
304,805.
Here's
Yes,
another
Rick.
thing. Before we were able to buy a Torah, we borrowed one from a friend of mine who taught at a religious school. It was one of those things where 2 or 3 temples merged, and downstairs in the basement they had arks filled with Torahs, and they lent us one. And the one we were using weighed a ton. And a bar bat mitzvah kid marching with the Torah, it was, I mean, they were struggling. The one we bought is way lighter. I mean, it's very light. And I was wondering how, there could be such a...
What's the deal?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are several different factors that go into the weight. Some of it has to do with literally how high it is and how long it is. But the Torah, I keep putting this away and going back again. So the Torah, this is the side that we're writing on. And if we were in person, I would have you feel the top and the bottom of it. There's a little bit of a coating on the back that's going to protect it. And this feels very much like suede. This is like a fabulous pocketbook or pair of shoes or jacket, whatever. That's called the tooth. This suede kind of feel to it. The coating, there are some Torahs that are coated on the front and the back. The coating adds a tremendous amount of weight, particularly if it's coated on the front and the back. And our friend Franny over there, she's coated on the front and the back, and that's part of her name, a story for another time. But the coating is going to add to it, the weight of it. The other thing that's going to add to the weight of it is, as we said, the Torah is, the pages are sewn together, and then the Torah itself is sewn onto those wooden dowels, the Atzei Chaim, which means tree of life, trees of life. One is Eitz Chaim on either end. Together, plural is Atzei Chaim. How heavy are those? That's going to add a lot to the weight. And believe it or not, these small, when synagogues are merging and they're looking for some extra income because they're not going to need 13 Torahs, one from each of, so they'll sell the Torahs. The smaller Torahs, believe it or not, you would think the bigger Torahs are worth more, but in many cases, the smaller Torahs are worth more because the congregations are aging out and because the kids, like you said, they can't hold one of these big, heavy Torahs. So the smaller Torahs, in many cases, if you have 2 Torahs that are in approximately the same condition, the smaller Torah is going to be worth more. For the most part. Again, there are exceptions, but there you go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was really pleased how light ours is because for us to be able to use it for a long time, it makes a huge difference. And plus, because we don't have a home with an ark in it that it stay, we're transporting it a lot.
Right. So. Try and keep it in air conditioning for me.
Right over there.
Okay. I guess if it's comfortable for you, then it's comfortable for the Torah. Okay. So we've got all of our pieces of Torah, all those cows that it took to make the Torah. Now we need to sew it together. So this is our thread, and it is called Gidin. You can see that it's got like a real texture to it. So this is made from the thigh tendon of the animal, or the tendon of the thigh of the animal. It is very, very strong. And it comes on, I mean, you can buy less, but this is a spool of Gidin. It's called Gidin. Hi, Laurel, how can I help you?
Sorry. Do they use the same animal tendon as what's in the parchment?
So here's the deal. You would never mix if you needed to replace. There are times where you would need to replace an entire page, or when you're patching, if there's a hole, we'll get into if there's a tear and a hole and you need to make a patch, you would never take a piece of goat cloth and put it on a cow Torah. But the Gidin, I always thought that rule went for the thread itself, but apparently I was misinformed, because I have heard that is not the case. That Gidin is Gidin, and it's universal.
Parva.
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 Yeah.
So there we go. And I always tell the kids, like if I'm handing this around, and the parents too, but because it looks like dental floss basically. And I say, you do not want this in your mouth, trust me. No. So that's so basically now we can make a Torah. We got all of our little separate pieces.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think we're maybe at the halfway point? And maybe.
Oh, I don't even know. I have so much energy right now. I could go all night. So if you guys are kind of on overload, I can stop here. I can keep going. You tell me.
No, I'm not at all. I mean,
what is the crowd? Should we do a little bit more?
Anybody have a consensus?
I think it's great.
Oh, okay, great, cool.
Thank
All
you.
right.
We appreciate you sharing this with us.
Oh, absolutely. I love doing this. Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, good. Yes.
So we
Meredith.
talked about different sizes of the Torah. Each
Yes.
segment or page,
Yes.
and are they always the same Hebrew in each section, no matter the size of the page?
Well,
or
the
lettering?
story is going to go in order. The Torah is those words, so there's 79,976 words, 304, 805. I know that in my sleep. The number of words, I have to look at it. But those 79, 80,000 words are always in the same order.
Right.
And so when you finish it, if you have a 42 line Torah,
Nice.
you're going to end, when you get to the bottom of that page, you're going to then start with the next word on the next page. If you were working on a 60 line Torah, chances are you're going to, unless it's like the bigger letters and the smaller letters, you're going to end at a different point. So what's at the top of one Torah page, other than every Torah starts with the same word, Bereshit. So any Torah you open up, that's always going to be the first word in the first column. But if you opened up 5 different Torahs, you may have different words that are at the top of the next column and the next page, et cetera, et cetera. But they're all going to be all the words are going to be exactly the same. And then if you went to the very end, that last word on the last page, it's always going to be the same.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
There is something which I don't have a picture of, I don't think. I would have to look for it. I'll have it for next time. But so there's something that's a common Eastern European scroll, and it's called a Vav scroll. And I don't know how they do it, but almost every single column, the first word on every single column starts with a Vav.
Wow.
It's really awesome.
Wow.
It's so awesome. And it's very common. It's common. A Vav scroll.
Wow.
Little trivia there. Okay.
Oh,
All right. What's next?
that
Oh,
will
let's
pop,
clean the Torah.
that will pop up on a crossword puzzle sometime soon, and I will know it now.
Okay. All right. So now that we've got the Torah and we wrote it and it's all pretty at the beginning, but now we've got to clean it. Like I said, schmutz, stuff in the air. You wouldn't believe. I mean, at some point I will share some pictures with you. You can't believe what happens to some scrolls. So in order to clean the scroll, we're going to use sponges. These are dry sponges. This is what one of them looks like. I buy these at Home Depot. So, I don't have to have a guy for everything. These I get at Home Depot because I can go to the guy, but he charges a lot more because he's probably buying them at Home Depot and just upcharging me to buy them through him. But what I do is I cut them because this is, as you can see, for me to hold this in my hand, it's just really cumbersome. And so I cut it into little pieces. I cut it into 8 pieces. Hold on one sec, and then yes, Fern. So you can see I quarter it, I half it and half it and half it and half it. So when I'm using a sponge, this is all I'm using. And this way I also get a lot more surface out of it. I get this and this and this and this. I can fold it in the middle and do that. So I can get a lot more surface cleaning out of one little piece as opposed to one big piece. Yes, Fern.
Does it have to be a natural sponge, or can you use one that's not a natural sponge?
These, I forget what the name of the sponge is. Like you wouldn't go to like Dollar Tree and get one of those sponges.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually, I think, what they use to clean cinder blocks, I want to say. I forget why they're in Home Depot, what they're cleaning with them, but this is a dry sponge. So when I'm cleaning the surface, and again, I have pictures that I can show you and video. This pulls any extra surface dirt. And then once you do that and you look at it, you can see. So these I've already used a bunch of times. These are dirty. And then I just wash them out. That's where the soap comes in. And it takes a long time, especially in the summer. I don't care how much air conditioning you have. It takes a long time for them to dry out. There cannot be any trace of water on these when I'm using them, because that's going to damage the letters. It's going to damage the ink. It's going to damage the cloth itself. So I have a lot of these, but I'm pulling any surface dirt. And then after I do that, then I'll take a paper towel, kind of ball that up, do this, look at it. Maybe I need another paper towel, but there's like time and time I'm going to be doing that. And then when there's still surface dirt left, I use one of these guys. This is a high polymer eraser. These are white, and I'm just literally erasing a whole surface. And then I take a bristle brush. Again, this is not nylon. This is just a regular bristle brush. And I'm brushing all of the extra dirt, all of these little pieces, the shavings you get when you erase, brush that off. And then I'm pulling it again. So cleaning is like step by step, but it can take me weeks just to be cleaning. I'm spending weeks just cleaning. And I'll clean the whole Torah back and front. And then I'm looking for, maybe then I'm doing lettering. And then I go back, or maybe there's also scraping involved. Again, I was in my office and I didn't get my scalpels. Sometimes people like to fix the Torah on their own instead of, how it's like, oh, I got a pain in my leg. I'll just put all my weight on the other leg and then the pain will go away. So when a Torah tears, and it can, and especially if there's like a little tear, and I'm not talking at the seams, I'm talking like in the middle of the Torah, it can happen. But if you don't fix it right away, that tear is going to keep tearing. And so people will put tape on it. And then once that tape, the glue starts to give, they'll put more tape on it and more tape. So now I've got to dissolve decades worth of glue, of old glue. For this, you know what? For this, I have a picture. Can I? You guys must be bored of looking at me. Can I screen share? Do I like have
Yeah, you can
the
screen share.
ability to screen share? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let me see what I'm going to show you here. Oh, okay. Stain almost. Okay. So I'm not sure what this stain was, but we're going to do stain almost gone. Hold on. Okay. One. Hopefully, come on. There we go. Okay. So let me get this bigger. No, not that. Let me get this bigger and do that. Oh, what are you guys seeing? Because this says screen is
We're seeing your
paused.
thumbnail.
We're seeing thumbnails.
Okay, let me stop. We did this. See, this is what happened in the
You have to
dress
do it
rehearsal.
twice.
Yeah, so now I got to do it again, but this time it should work. Let's see.
Double click.
Okay. You see are you looking at the Torah now?
We're still seeing
No.
thumbnail.
Oh, come on, seriously? All right.
The double click.
Well,
We need you to share the photo that you're seeing.
I did. All right, let's see what happens. Now, can you
There
see
we
it?
go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. I was not going to give up that easily. Okay. So here we go. Now I'm in the way here. Put this over here. All right. So I am not exactly sure what this was, but whatever it was, can you see where I'm circling it over here on the
Yeah.
right-hand side? Okay.
Yes.
So whatever this stuff was over here, once the Torah was rolled, it rolled onto, so this big glop over here, when the Torah was rolled together, was now over on this word Shana, was over here. Okay.
Yep.
It was kind of sticky-ish. At first I thought it was blood, honestly, because it was like this dark rusty color.
Could be.
I'm not sure what it was, but whatever it was, we needed to get rid of it. And particularly with old glue and things that need to be dissolved, again, I can't use any chemicals. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can get to the next one. So I've got to be able to dissolve it, but I can't use anything chemical. So what am I going to use that's going to dissolve something gluey and sticky?
Vinegar, lemon.
Yeah, I'm not going to use vinegar, but I am going to use something consumable because I need to kind of dissolve it. So I'm going to use vodka.
Vodka.
Right on.
This is my special bottle here. So we have to use vodka, which is going to kind of dissolve, right? I also need an emollient because this is going to but it's going to dissolve it, but it's also going to dry it out because it's alcohol. So I'm going to add some glycerin and vodka and put them in my little spray bottle. And the way that you know that you have mixed it correctly is when you shake it around like this, there's like a little bit of bubbles. If I shake this and it's all bubbles, too much glycerin. If I shake it and there's no bubbles, not enough glycerin. But this is just the right blend of alcohol and glycerin. And so now I'll spray it on there. I'll let it kind of sit for a little bit. And then with my scalpels that I don't have in front of me, let me just minimize this. Hold on. Okay. So let me get to the next step, which is this. Okay, so this should work. on screen share now. Can you
Yes.
see that?
Oh, it's a lot. Yeah.
Okay, look at how much is now gone, and we're not even done yet. Let me get this bigger here. Okay, look, remember that like gloppy dark stain that was over there? This was about an hour of work of me spraying, letting it sit, gently scraping off what was coming loose, wiping it down with a paper towel, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And so it's almost gone over there. Haven't even started over here yet. Okay, and then I got one more
Will
where
that
I'm.
dissolve the ink on the?
It will not dissolve the ink. No.
Oh.
If you really spray a lot on, it might smudge it a little. And I have done that where I thought there was like for that word shana, that nun, and then I just re-ink it if that happens. But let me get to the final picture, which is not fully gone, but it's almost gone. Let me get this. Come on. And then let me do this. And okay. Are we seeing this? Yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there is a little bit that's left there. Big. Let me do that. There we go. But that is just about done. I don't have the picture where it's totally gone. But that's hours and hours of work. And then I'm going to do it over here and over here.
Doing it in a letter, I mean, doing it within a word must be a lot more complicated. Yeah, you have to be a lot.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And like I said, if the letter stays, it stays. And if I get smudging, then I just scrape off the rest of the letter and then rewrite it.
Okay. All right. Wow.
That's all.
That's a lot.
I have a question. Did the congregation ask you to get that stain out? Was that the main thing, or was it a whole project of?
Oh, that was just
that?
that was just one part of what was ailing that particular Torah. And so what happens is, so when I do an intake and I do an assessment, I will say in Bereshit on the fourth Yiriyah, so a page is called a Yiriyah.
Okay.
Plural is Yiriot. And the word Yiriyah actually means curtain, which I think is so cool, that these are like curtains that are like, curtains that are hanging there. So I will say, this is what's going on. Excessive lettering issues, excessive cleaning issues, pink mold, whatever is happening, so that, and it's all, itemized out what the issues are. And then this way they know, and how many seams are torn, or a half a seam versus a whole seam, and things like that.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi, Laurel.
Sorry, this will be my last question.
No. As many questions as you want. Absolutely.
No. Well, I guess I wondered, because I'm trying to recall calligraphy. So let's say you have a new, like you have to redo a page or create a page. Do you do a pencil writing in first or anything? Everything is just right there.
Pencil bad. Pencil
bad. Pencil bad. No, I just wondered because, you have to figure out the spacing exactly and the kerning and all everything. I don't know how that happens. I wondered about that.
Okay. So I have never, as I said, I have never written an entire page. I have never written an entire column. I have filled in, I fill in a lot of missing letters.
Okay.
And in some cases, for example, with this, where is it? It's on the back. Here we go. Okay. So one of the issues that is plaguing this particular piece of Torah is this Remember, we visited this before.
Yeah.
You can see, I can actually put my nail through there. There is a tear that's on, wait, where's the back of this here? There we go. Okay, that's what the back of it looks like. How that happened, I don't know. I mean, this clearly is like a razor, or I mean, it's so clean. It's not a tear.
Yeah.
That's a cut, right? So it has gone through and it is compromising 2 words. There, oops, I need another hand. Here we are. This word here and this word here.
Alchem.
Alkane. Okay. This word here. So, but in this case, it's only touching one of these 2 letters. And I was sharing with Rick. So the way that Neil taught me is that a word is basically a family of letters. And so if we were to, I can't just ink this because this tear is still here. If the tear was only, but the tear is technically only going through this second letter, not the first letter here. But I can't just repair and patch the second letter because this entire word is compromised. So these 2 words, I'm going to actually cut out a hole in that takes out both of these. It's like surgery. And I'm literally using scalpels. We don't use anything metal. We don't use anything that is that could be used as a weapon in war. However, surgical steel, doctors use scalpels for healing. And so we are using, to heal the Torah, we are using these medical tools to help heal the Torah. So I'm literally, and I'll just show you on the back, it's easier. So I'm literally going to cut out this without cutting into any other words, but I'm going to cut out that whole part. I'm going to take another piece of cloth, and I have a whole big supply in here. So I'll try and get, and these are different shades. They're like all sort of the same color, but they're different shades. So I'm going to try and match it. And then I'm going to put in that space in here, starting, all patching takes place in the back. So from the back, I'm going to treat it a little bit. I'll get into that afterwards. And then once I'm done, I'm going to patch it and put it here. Now there's a hole. Now I have to write those 2 words, those 4 letters within that space. Within using the same hand. It's not a font. A font comes out of a computer. This is a hand, but that same style of lettering to try to match it so that the family will be reunited.
Wow. Now, you know what? I love the thing that you said about the scalpel. It's kind of like on Shabbat when we do the hamotzi, we don't take a knife and cut the challah. We tear it. Because the knife is a tool of war and destruction. Right. It's fine how things tie in together in our tradition.
So therefore, I have a question about the war thing.
Yes.
The ink has iron in it? Iron something in it?
Copper sulfate?
Iron or something sulfate?
Some copper sulfate, I think it was. Copper sulfate crystals, gum arabic, gallnut powder, black carbon, water.
So at one time, though, copper was used as a metal in war, right?
Copper is, but is copper sulfate?
I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Copper sulfate crystals?
I have no clue. So
I have no clue either.
Just thought about it.
Jill, how do you keep it straight? Do you use a ruler for that?
So what you can, you know what? You might be able to see on the back here, if I can get the lighting. Okay. Let me see. So it is, no, you can't see it that way. Maybe you can. So there, when it's blank, before anything was written, I'm trying to get it with the light. Here we go. Okay. So it is, whoops. It is scored. There you go. Okay. Can you see the lines?
Yeah, white lines. Yeah.
Right. So what that is using either a piece of glass or, so this is a bone folder. Paul, it's called a bone folder because it's made out of?
Bone.
Oh, made out of folder.
It's made out of folder. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So these are made from bone, and believe it or not, Martha Stewart has a line of these.
If you knew
These
Paul,
are not
that
Martha
would not have been a surprise answer.
What's Martha Stewart doing?
These are not Martha Stewart, but I refuse to buy Martha Stewart bone folders, but she does in her crafting. She uses because what you're doing is you're scoring. It's got a point at the end. This is one of the things that we use to make a patch. So this is a patch on the back here, and it's a little piece of cloth, and you have to get it soft, and you have to get the edges flat. And so you take a piece of wax paper and the bone folder, and you put it in between, and this is like really hard. And so you're pressing down and you're softening it. And so but this side, using a ruler, you're going to score it so that the letters are all straight. What's really cool is, and I don't know if you can tell on this, but, oh yes, you can. So the letters are not sitting on the line. They're actually hanging from the line above.
Yeah. I would
Isn't
have
that
thought they
cool?
would have been underneath.
Yeah, they don't sit on the line. They hang from above, and you heard me say they're like little kosher bats that are just like hanging upside down. Kosher. But that's it. They're hanging off the top there. And so when Neil, Neil, when I was working with him during my internship, he was commissioned by a synagogue that was having a special, I forget what anniversary it was. And so they commissioned him to create a Torah, a new scroll for them. And this box from UPS arrived that was just a big flat box. And it was 64 pages of Torah that were just completely blank. They were all like treated perfectly, and they're ready to be written on, and they were all scored. And so what happens is now I definitely need an extra hand. Hold on one sec. Okay. Hold on. Okay. So it's scored down here and down here, so you know where to start and end. And then each line, 42 lines that way, for 42 sets of letters to hang off the top.
I see.
And so one of the jobs of the Soferet is to know, okay, I got let's say there's, these are the letters that I have to write. How do I know if I'm starting here, I'm getting to here, and I'm going to end at the right time, at the right place? So for example, on this first one, the letters are all pretty much the same size, but he got to the end, and this chaf is just a little bit wider because he started writing this word, and he was like, oh no, I only have 4 letters left. One of them is a yud, which is so small. I got to make sure that I end at the end right at the end here. So you're allowed to elongate certain letters, and that becomes common. Like here, look at this. Whoa.
Reish. Look at that reish.
Yeah, reish.
Look at that. There you go. Because he's writing this word key, and then he's like, oh, I only have this left. I've got all that space. I got to fit it all in. And so you are allowed to elongate words. That's why certain letters are a little bit longer than others, because it all has to fit. But it's all scored, so that's how everything stays perfectly straight.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder if they do that with other languages, like, Chinese, I'm wondering if they,
They're going up and down.
Like the Quran.
That's a whole other thing.
I know, but it's kind of interesting.
I mean, obviously it's handwritten, but I think with other things it would be typesetting, in another instance. But here, because it has to be a specific number of characters across, that's what happens.
So,
I mean, you got the letters, you got the words, they're all going in the same order, but you have to determine as you're writing along. And again, when you do this, when this is all you do, I don't.
I guess in the Torahs, it's not like illuminated text, the illuminated.
Yeah.
Do they,
those are so gorgeous.
do they, the Torahs never have any images? It's all just the lettering?
There are no pictures. And Mitch, ask your question, and then I'm going to do one more quick screen share. What's your question?
So Meredith and I have been fortunate to be able to do a letter in 2 Torahs.
Wow.
At Chabad here.
Yeah.
And of course, the guy that came to do it, he was, yeah.
Don't tell him I'm doing this. He will have some kind of a
now you
medical
know where I'm
episode.
going with this. With a strictly Orthodox shul.
Yes.
No, they would allow you.
Oh God, no. No,
I didn't think so.
That's what I said. He would have a medical episode. No,
Right.
so when Neil because he works in these Brooklyn communities that are very observant, when he's getting a Torah and he's working on a Torah from those communities, the women, pre-COVID, there were like 20 people who would come and go, people who, were available at certain times of the year. I was working in school, so I would go up there. He was in about an hour away up in Mount Vernon. And so maybe occasionally, if I had one day off, I'd go up there. But over the summer, I was there all the time. So there were other people who were available during the week, during the day, during the year. But none of the women ever worked on the scrolls from Brooklyn, from the observant communities.
And Mitch was allowed to touch his arm.
You were not.
I was allowed to touch Mitch's arm.
Mitch, who was touching. Yeah,
Yes,
pretty much that's it.
how it
and he was like, "Don't look at me. Don't look."
Actually, the first time we had a third person, a daughter, and I touched his arm. Meredith touched my arm, and the daughter touched her arm. But it was still fascinating. It was still.
Yeah. I'm sure it was still very meaningful. I'm sure it was. Yeah. And we are respectful of that. And honestly, there are certain suppliers even, like Neil told me who I should go to, because there are certain suppliers that it's disrespectful of me to even ask for these materials. Wow. So I wouldn't, there are certain places that I would not even go to buy materials.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to leave you with, hopefully, all right, this is going to take a second. Hold on. Okay. So 2 things. Let me just do this real quick. Okay, so this is up. All right, so this. Okay, are we seeing a Torah with a Torah pointer?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, okay.
The yad.
So this is what a Torah with the yad. So this is what the Torah looks like. Pretty much, we've got these columns. There are spaces in between. And the spaces are there because there's no punctuation. There's no pictures. There's no page numbers. But the spaces can tell us information. So, for example, okay, so there's 2 different kinds of spaces. There's this where the space is in the middle, and then there's the space over here where the space is towards the end. It's open-ended. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So starting again, because it's a Torah, so I'm starting in the top right. There's a space here, and then, but it's in the middle. And then the next part, there's a space, but it goes all the way to the end. When there's a space in the middle, it means I have finished a thought or a subject or a commandment, whatever it is. I finished this, but I'm still in the same subject. I'm still in the same thought process. So I'm going to leave that space to let you know I finished this, but I'm not quite done. It's like Columbo. One other thing.
Yeah.
And then we continue. But here so at the end of this paragraph, if you will, now I finished this, and now there's a space that goes all the way to the end, and now we start another sentence or verse. Now I'm starting on a new thought. Maybe it means that a new Torah portion is starting, maybe within a Torah portion, we know that there's like all these different things that are happening. Maybe it's a whole bunch of different mitzvot, or different commandments, or maybe it's different parts of a story. So that's the difference. If the space is in the middle, it's the same idea. I'm just going to keep going. If it's a whole new subject I'm talking about, then that's the end of it. Okay? So there's that. Stop. But then we have...
This is our beautiful yard that the cats
Oh,
found.
look at that. Isn't that beautiful? What's the history on that?
Mitch and Meredith bought it for us. So,
Oh,
isn't that great? We use
that's
it.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Zaftig, I like it.
Did you get it
You
in
know
the
that you're
yachts?
holding it.
Got a yard sale.
There you go.
Oh my God.
I'm here all week. Okay.
Yes.
So
Mitch, they want you in the Catskills.
Do you think that tear could have been from someone being not careful with a yard?
well, that certainly happens. However, that would be what we would call a poke, in which case it would probably be a hole. This is a very clean cut.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know, that's like scissors. That's like, what was that even doing near the, okay. So I can't access what I want, but I'm gonna do something else instead. Okay, let's do this. So sometimes, let me do, where are you? Oh, here you are. Okay. So sometimes things look very, very different. And hopefully you can see that, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so even if you don't know, and I'm actually going to pull back and make it smaller so that you can see the whole thing, an overview first. Even if you don't know anything about a Torah, even if you didn't know what this was, you know something's going on here, right? Something very significant, very different than all those other straight columns. If somebody knows what this is, don't shout out yet. If somebody wants to take a guess at what this is, I'd like to hear from you first.
Is it a song? I don't know.
I can't hear you. Is it what?
I thought maybe it's like a song or something.
It is a song, shirat, a song of Hayam, a song of the sea.
Oh, so it is.
This is what we just had. This is Passover. This is the parting of the sea.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And it's like the waves are separating, the words are pulling apart. The sea is parting for us so that we can go across. Please take a picture. Yes. Isn't that gorgeous? I'll make it a little bit bigger. And then I want to go real big. So that there's that. And you can even see that some of the letters are really long because this is even more challenging to be able to space this out, right? And so it still has to stay in those columns, within the column.
Wow.
Is this unique to this Torah? I mean, I guess I have not seen everyone.
Every single Torah, it looks something like this. And I'm going to zoom in and then I'm going to show you, because somebody made a comment about how there are no illustrations or anything like that. There is a little, tiny little bit of license, if you will, that a sofer or a soferet can do. And so we're gonna take a look and see what some amazing sofer decided to do one day. But this is a close up so you can see what the letters are looking like here. Okay. So yeah, take a picture. I'll wait, and then I'm going to show the other one. Tell me when you're ready for me to stop. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's that. But oh, I can't believe I had it. No, I just lost it. I'm not what we call a techie, so sometimes it's a little challenging for me. Okay, here we go. So this is what this sofer did.
Oh.
Oh yeah, he did this. It's like these are droplets of water. This is like
the design.
So letters, there are 7 letters that have to have those little crowns on them. They're called tagin. But, or as Paul calls them, actually, I'm going to let you say it, Paul. What do you call them?
Eyelashes.
He calls them eyelashes. But this scribe has decided, so over here, this is what the typical, again, tagin, and there are 3 crowns, three lines that come up. Sometimes they have little balls on the end, but he has decided to turn them into water in certain places.
That's fascinating.
And it's just it's so gorgeous. And so we can see that all through this. Oh, here you go. Here's a poke. Oh no, that's just a hole. So where the seam is, you can see that starting to tear a little bit. You see that? That's the sewing. And you can see that little line there, and over here too. That is starting to tear. It's okay, but the temple needs to keep an eye on this, because at some point that tear is going to make its way out to here and across to here and eventually into this whole thing.
The letters with the decorations look like a different ink.
Yeah.
Or were they done later?
So this has been restored. You can see that this is, because not every letter is like that. Like these are darker. This is darker ink that doesn't have the tagin. So, but it's restored. And by the way, that's one of the ways that we can tell the age of a Torah, is because there's no timestamp on it. You know, there's no copyright on it. But what we can do, so let me finish with this and just showing the bottom of
just notice there's Micha Mocha right there.
I was looking for that.
This is it. This is why we sing Micha Mocha. Absolutely. Because that's what happens. We sing Micha Mocha. How awesome. The awesomeness of God. And the awesomeness of this particular Torah and this scribe too.
There it is. Micha Mocha Va'elim Adonai.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for that. Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah.
Let's get our tambourines and Miriam and we'll dance.
I think it's interesting that these sofers can do this embellishment. You think that everything is so rigid and it has to be a certain way, yet you see all these frills, and that they can just do this. It doesn't seem like
this is unique. That is unique. I obsess over Shirat Hayam. I have a whole. I could do a book, like every Torah that I have ever worked on, even if I'm not working on that. I will roll to it. I will look at it. I will find it. I will document it because it's so beautiful
Now,
and it's so special.
if, would you be allowed, if you came across that page and there were no embellishments, would you be allowed to would you be able to embellish? Would you have the
Not like that, I wouldn't. I would not feel that I had what's called the yichus. Like I don't have the credentials for that. But yes, there are definitely times when I have been working on a scroll, and in fact, I had called Neil because there was an entire this Torah that I was working on. The entire 2 lines were missing the tagin. They just weren't there. There, like I said, there are 7 letters. There's a shin. And next time I'll like show you very specific examples. But there are 7 letters that have to have them. And there were just 2 lines of text that it was missing. And we decided that it was that particular Torah scribe who wrote this Torah, that it was either his first Torah or his last Torah. He was either very new or he was just so old that he forgot. But I don't know how that happened, but I put them in because they're supposed to be there. So yeah, I got to put them in. That was fun.
So Jill, does each Sofer, do they have their own style that I know it's supposed to be uniform, but if you look at a Torah, you can tell who did it, who fixed it.
So it's not that. It's not that you can tell the Sofer. That guy that we just saw with the splashes, I'm sure he was very well known at the time. It isn't that the scribe is allowed, because unless it's a brand new scroll, the way that like I said, the way that we know where the scroll came from is based on the shape of the letters. And you were a scribe because your father was a scribe, your uncle was a scribe, your grandfather was a scribe, all the men in the family, that was the family business. And you learned how to write the Torah, how to shape those letters. And it wasn't until somebody left and went to another few towns over or went to another part of Europe and took his style with him and maybe started to change it a little bit. And his discipline was shaping it this way. And so he couldn't help himself. And even though it was supposed to be like this, it kind of came like this. Neil calls that Ashkefardic, when you're mixing the Sephardic and the Ashkenazi, but it is very disciplined. The original Torahs, no, it isn't the scribe is putting his stamp on it. It's the scribe is very disciplined in shaping the letters exactly as he was taught. And it isn't until generations and people start kind of dispersing around that things kind of change a little bit. So if I'm doing something, and particularly that time that I had to do when I had to cut out, I've only done it twice where I cut out the letters that were broken, the words that were damaged. And I can't tell you how many times I practiced. And I had the cloth and I knew what size, and because on a scrap piece of cloth, I would take the scalpel and very lightly score the hole so that I knew exactly the space. And finally I was like, I got to do this, but I have to match that font, that hand exactly to what is already there. I can't do those splashes. I have to do exactly what's already there. All right, I think this might be good. I mean, I could go all night, but I think that maybe I don't want to push my luck here, so I'm gonna.
This was outstanding.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Great questions you had. You gave me a homework assignment. I'm so excited.
Thank you. So something about the history of the Torah. I know you said the oldest one that you've seen or maybe know of is 300 years old. What do we know about the history of the first Torahs that were written? Anything?
Well, the pieces of the Dead Sea Scrolls, I think those are quite old. Those were, and I forget where in like Yemen, I forget where they were found. I should look that, I should know.
They're actually here in LA now. They're at the Reagan
They're at the
Museum.
Reagan.
Yeah, we're gonna go see
That's
them.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them when they were in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had, Gail, you had a question?
A comment. I cannot get over how everything you do is so analogous to medicine and surgery, and even the preparation for your first patch. I just find that stunning. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. And it is part of the process. Next time I will talk more about my personal process, because you don't just sit down and write or patch or sew. There's a lot that goes into the mental and emotional preparation and spiritual preparation before anything starts. So next time I'll talk about that, but it is thinking about a lot about healing, whether it's people, whether it's what's going on in the news, that becomes very much a part of it.
Yeah.
And
the connection to your patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
When you look back at like, I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I mean, when something is fixed, or it's like 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road, do you ever look at the age, like how the work aged? You know what I mean? Like when
Do I go back and check on what I've done, get to see
or
what I've done?
or your mentor, like, if you can see a difference between the original and the patch over time, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't necessarily see mine, but that's one of the ways that we can tell the age of the Torah, as I had started to mention that before. How many times has it been restored? That's one of the ways that we can tell that if every generation, because you can see the style of repair and the style of lettering. Like you saw, that person had gone with a very dark ink. So we know that that was one time, but maybe we're going to see in another part of the Torah, pardon me, we're going to see a very different style of the way the letters were repaired. So that's another generation. That's another 10 years or 20 years. And so if we find this, that there's like 3, 4, 5 of these, all of a sudden there's 100 years. Plus, the original 10 or 20 years until somebody actually looked at it. So I may not see my work aging, but I can definitely see other people's work over time, which is why I'm here.
Is there a
Because
prayer?
at some point it's gonna fade again, or it's gonna crack, or it's gonna tear, and somebody's got to fix it.
Is there a prayer that you have to say before working on the Torah?
There are several different things depending on what the work is, and again, that's a pretty long story. So
Next time.
I will definitely. I'm writing it down, but I don't even need to, because that's a whole part of it. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Oh, wonderful.
so I guess we'll wrap up this, but I'll talk to you before the weekend's out, Jill. I just got to tell you, I'll tell you while everybody else is listening. I had pretty high expectations for this. You have exceeded them by miles, really. For everybody else, we talked about this. Jill and I and Paul were online about a week or two ago, and we kind of talked about this, and it's far more extensive than I even thought after that conversation. So
Thank you so much. Wow.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for sticking around.
So we'll talk soon, and in the next few days, and we'll figure out the next time. So
Okay. And I see your comment, Dr. Sandy. Thank you so much.
computer issues.
All right.
And
So
like I said,
yeah, we'll find another time.
You're more than welcome to stay. Well, I think we'll do kind of service light now, because it's getting
Okay. Well, since it's midnight here, and I had dinner light in preparation for this, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna step away so that I can have a little snack before I go to bed.
All right, thank you.
Thank
But
you.
thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
very
inviting
much.
me, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
That
you,
was-
Jill. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. It was great.
that was
And-
really
Thank
neat.
you.
And Rick, can
Okay.
just imagine 50 years ago that,
Yeah, that we would be doing this.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yes, it really is. Yep.
Right.
Yep. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
Shabbat Shalom, guys.
Shabbat
And I will
shalom.
see you next time.
Yeah, thank you
Shalom,
very
Jill.
much.
Shabbat shalom, Paul.
About
Thank you
care.
so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye. I could probably talk all night on that.
So